Hey everybody. So we're talking tonight about the angel Iachadiel. Iachadiel. And so this angel is associated with the idea of together or togetherness, unity, and union. And so, it could be something that you would address for spiritual disconnection. But the thing that I would like to talk to you about tonight would be like how we get fragmented between us and the outside world. A lot of times we have issues where we might have some sort of conflict rather than our mind recognizing the conflict. There is some sort of conflict. And in that conflict, we start to be polarized internally in the nervous system. And then we have a kind of fragmentation that happens that impacts the mind, the ego, and how we interact with the outside world. And a lot of times we don't see it so much as a fragmentation, but there is a disconnection from us and our higher nature, our spiritual self, right? We kind of go into this weird survival mode and we become a lot more reactive. And this is really born out of some sort of conflict. And we think of conflict as maybe an argument or a fight, but it's just being at odds with something, right? Even when we do the body listening, we're really bringing a kind of unity or harmony between the body and the mind. And the reason we need to do this is there is a conflict, or these aspects are at odds with each other. The mind isn't hearing the messaging, the signaling that's coming from the body. So this can happen internally, but it also can happen externally. And so what this starts to do is it starts to throw off our lower centers. It starts to generate a kind of stress within us that then starts to shut down some of our cognitive function and the way we interact with people in the outside world, but also more importantly, how we interact with ourselves, our body and our mind, and our lower nature and higher nature. So we're going to do it both with the oil and with the chanting the name. And we're going to see how this treats us tonight as we go through and address this idea of fragmentation and bringing things together and unifying different aspects of ourselves. So just close your eyes for a moment and notice how you feel. Notice your body, your emotions, and your thoughts. Now begin inhaling the oil, and let's just inhale it and see what it does for our body and our mind. Just start taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. If there's an area in your body where you feel a little something, you're inhaling the oil with your awareness on that area. And then just pause. Pause and be still. You're just being still. Now we're going to start targeting the areas that are impacted by this fragmentation, right? So your awareness is on your navel. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. You're inhaling the oil with your awareness on your navel. Your awareness is on your navel. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Your awareness is still on your navel. Your awareness is on your spleen, on the left hand side of your body, below the ribs. Left hand side of the body, below the ribs. Your awareness is on that left hand side of the body, below your ribs. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Your awareness is on the low back, the back side of the navel. Your awareness is on the back side of the navel. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Your awareness is on the sex chakra, where the sex organs are. Your awareness is on the sex chakra. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. You're on the sex chakra. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then your awareness is on the bottom of the tailbone, the basic chakra. Your awareness is on the bottom of the tailbone. And then just pause and be still. You're pausing and being still. You're just being still. And in that stillness, we're going to repeat the angelic name silently in our mind. So I'll say it, you say it with me. I, ach, die, el. 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 Okay, so we're going to do it now with a mudra. So you're going to take your hands like so. You're going to bend down the two middle fingers, the middle and ring finger, I should say. That's probably a better way to say it. Okay, so you look like this, right? So this is a mudra to help with embodying the energy of an angel. Right? So you're holding your hands like so. I, ach, die, el. 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 And then gently relax your hands. Yeah, a little strong, yeah. So we'll talk about that mudra in a little while. Let's continue with the practice and then we'll process. So you have your oil. Again, begin inhaling. Your awareness is on the navel. Your awareness is on your navel. And then your awareness is on your spleen, left hand side of your body below the ribs. Left hand side of your body below your ribs. Your awareness is on the low back, the backside of the navel. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Now, move your awareness to the sex chakra. Your awareness is on the sex chakra. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Your awareness is on the bottom of the tailbone. Mm. Okay, and then pause and let go. Okay, we're going to do our thing again. You're going to hold your hands up. You're going to roll down the middle finger and ring finger. Do it so your arms just feel like they're relaxed. Everything's relaxed. And then silently in your mind, you're repeating, I, ach, die, el. 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 You're holding your hands up in the same way. And at the same time, your awareness is on your brain. Your hands are up. Your awareness is on your brain. I, ach, die, el. I, ach, die, el. I, Iachadiel. Your hands are still up and your awareness is on your spine. Your awareness on your spine and your hands are still up. Iachadiel. Iachadiel. And then your awareness is on the soles of your feet. Iachadiel. Iachadiel. Relax your hands down. Keep your eyes closed. Just be still. You're just being still. You're going to use that same oil. You're inhaling, your awareness is on your brain. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Your awareness on your brain. Your awareness is on your spine. Brain and spine both at the same time. Brain and spine both at the same time. The brain and soles of your feet. And then just pause and let go. Pause and let go. Notice how you feel. How does that feel for you? But yeah, takes so part of what's happening right now, you might just feel like, oh, I feel relaxed or I feel whatever, but you're diminishing the effect of like being at odds or like a kind of conflict with like the outside world, other people, or between the body and the mind. Remember that last piece where we do the brain, soles of the feet is about resolving external loops when we do it with an angel. When we do it in the org programming, it's about inner loops, right? But when we do it with an angel, it's about external loops, right? And so conflict doesn't necessarily mean an argument. Conflict doesn't necessarily mean, you know, being in a like an argument, conflict, putting your dukes up and going at somebody. It's just like when things are at odds with things in the environment. And it could be, if you think about times where, you're around your family and people start talking about politics and they know maybe you have a little bit of a different point of view. uh, Even though you might not have a conversation about it, there's an energy projected at you, or there's a behavior that's displayed toward you, right? And in that, there starts to be this weird little conflict. And the issue with conflict is the more that we're fragmented, the more that we lack kind of a cohesion in ourselves and with the outside environment, we take on the tendencies of whatever we're at conflict with. Now, we don't have to be the ones where you're like, I don't like what you're doing. A lot of times it's stuff projected at us. And then the conflict starts to happen. And we start getting pulled into this kind of gravity of a behavior, a situation, and is as much as we don't necessarily choose it or initiate it or engage it, still that conflict is there and it starts to influence us, it starts to impact us. And the way that we don't get pulled into this gravity is by increasing cohesion and diminishing the fragmentation. Like the more that we can be conscious of it, it's helpful. But the consciousness of whatever's going on is like, okay, now I can be non-reactive. I'm not going to get pulled into this silly little way of behaving. I'm I'm not going to get pulled into their weird conversation. So that's one level, but then that takes the conflict inside because then you're like, well, am I always having to do this with this person? Like it's like um there's a little bit of a cascading effect. Like first you're dealing with it out there, then you have to deal with some sort of like inner conflict with these situations, and then be able to find a kind of peace even with that, right? And so a lot of times that means we have to like resolve something in ourselves or shift something in ourselves or make peace with something like, okay, this is just the way my family is. This is just the way these people are. It's just the nature of the times. It's just, you know, the way people see things. And in a year, people are going to see it very differently. But, ugh, you know, to not get pulled into whatever it is in a situation and let things unfold where it doesn't impact you, it doesn't change you. You know, it's that thing that I have said through the years. I don't say it a lot, but we don't want to become a monster to defeat a monster, right? We want to be able to get away from whatever it is, walk away, have it not be affect us, but not have it dramatically change us because somebody's being obnoxious or somebody is being inconsiderate or somebody's being aggressive or hostile, right? And it's not always about like an argument or it's just if you think about the things going on in the world, there's a lot of us and them, or there's a lot of demonizing somebody who might not be like one group is demonizing another group. And even though we might not be involved in it, it's still out there, right? So we need to be able to be in a different place with it all rather than getting engaged in all the shenanigans of it all, right? We need to keep our wits about us and be able to manage the outside world, but not get pulled into the dramas that are happening out in the outside. If any of this makes sense, I don't know. Doing this like deeper angel work, sometimes you start to have a perspective where like I start talking to like old friends or something like that, and it's like we are in such different places. I don't know that I can even have like normal conversations with people anymore. I don't know. But anyway, let's do shares and questions, and we are going to do a little bit more. But notice how you feel, and then let's process it, see how you did. You can unmute yourself. You can type in.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Hey, hey.
Hey, Greg. So when we did the mudras, I had a very physical reaction in my body. The first time my hands got really hot,
Hmm.
just the hands. And then the second time my head got really hot. My hands were hotter
Oh,
than normal, but it was almost like there were these three glowing heat globes on my body. And there's part of me that says, "Oh, I was resisting something, and it wasn't flowing through
not
me."
necessarily. Not necessarily. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. I thought you were going to talk more.
No.
Um, so not necessarily. You're not necessarily resisting something. So when you do this mudra like this, part of what you're doing is it is like an embodiment mudra. Like you would here we're using it with angels, but you also could use it with like trying to embody Christ or trying to embody the Buddha or trying to embody Rama or, whatever, even if it was a teacher, like, okay, I have this teacher that, is from this tradition. And so you would sit and like connect with the deity or the teacher and just hold the image of them. And as you go through and you do this, part of what's happening whenever we do something like that is, it's like how we were talking about the angelic hierarchy, is there's these different levels of angelic energies, but within that, there's different levels of how our mind works, or like abilities or realms that our mind kind of works in and functions in. And part of what happens is a lot of these areas for most people aren't really that functional. And it's not because they're not smart or they're not bright or they didn't accumulate enough information. It's that stress has shut them down. Like those different ways of cognitively like processing or accessing something in the mind, they just get shut down a whole bunch. And so when you start to do the embodiment practice, part of what you're doing is you're kind of jump starting a particular way of like processing, or you're accessing a part of your mind. You're processing an aspect of intelligence within you. And so part of what happens is you start kicking off the associated stress, and we'll talk about this in the angelic hierarchy on the weekend, but like still, let's talk about it right now. So there's this one kind of stress that is uh I think I just called it energetic coherence, right? And it's tied to the ajna, and it's tied to like how our energy body, our chakras, like sequence. Like say you're sitting here and you've just done a meditation and your heart is big and you're like, oh, this feels amazing. And then you go and you do a task, or you go outside, or you go engage some person, and all of a sudden, because of what you're doing, your chakras all kind of go into this different pattern, and you engage this situation or this person, and you kind of react in a way that was very different than when you were sitting there going, om, 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 right? You don't feel quite the peace, and it might be good, it might be bad. But part of what happened is as you engage the outside world, your chakras like sequence in a particular way. Well, just like if our body is dysregulated, if the energy body has like a kind of dysregulation, or has like these dysregulation patterns within it, as we engage these things in the outside world, we go into this like kind of crazy place, or we go into, sometimes it might be a good place. Think of people where, they're kind of obnoxious people, but then some crisis happens and they shine, right? They just, they nail it. They become this amazing person. Their chakras sequence in a particular way and they're able to perform. And then you go, whoa, this person's a great person. And then the crisis goes away and they go back to their obnoxious self. Their chakras then sequenced in a different way, right? And so it's a different way of looking at how our nervous system reacts to different situations in the outside world. When we do dysregulation and vagal tone, it's about us, our body, our function, how we generate emotion. But then when we take it to the outside world, it's a whole nother dynamic that then gets processed and still comes back and impacts us. But there's still this that has to be addressed, right? And a lot of the things that cause us suffering is more this than this. Like this is us getting our feet under us, right? We're finding ourselves, we're getting our legs under us. We have a kind of resilience that we kind of establish. But then that gives us the ability to deal with the outside world and how the outside world comes at us. And so when you're doing this mudra, part of what's happening is you're shifting how your chakras sequence, and you're really helping to regulate this area because the ajna, that area between your eyebrows, the more that it's developed and the more that it's mm, we could use energetic terms like the more that it spins in a way and pumps in a particular way, but the more that the ajna knows who it is, you know what I mean? It's like it's got its feet under it. It then regulates our system so that when this starts to get a little weird, we don't lose ourselves. Because if you think about a lot of times if you watch yourself, you're doing okay, and then this kind of starts to happen, and then we kind of lose ourselves for a little bit, and we just kind of survive and react and do whatever we got to do, and then we come back and you go, oh, that was a little rough. It's like, I gotta like let myself settle, and I gotta get my feet under me, and I gotta. Uh, and really, what happened was how we sequenced got so disrupted and so dysregulated that we kind of lost who we were for a little bit. And we just became whatever the conflict was. We became whatever we needed to do to get through that situation. We just became the set of reactions. And then we come back and we try to shake it off, make sense of it, and go, okay, I got to not do that next time. And it's not an intellectual choice. It is like why we cultivate so much intuition is that the intuitive mind is what's going to free us in that situation. It's what's going to regulate that. It's what's going to keep us from losing ourselves there, right? And so when you start doing that and you start to feel like, oh, my head's getting a little funny, or my hands are lighting up, or my legs are my low back, my kidneys are starting to feel a little weird, you're kicking off that uh, kind of stress that's associated with that energetic coherence that has to do with how the chakras sequence, and you are becoming a little bit more like awakened is a good way to say it. You become a little bit more, there's more light in this area. You become a little bit more conscious. So you just don't go into this weird reactive thing and you're like, ugh, I can I can maintain myself. I can stay connected to myself when the weird thing happens out there. And so the heat getting thrown off, there might be body tension. Um, Even for a little bit, it might feel a little weird, like you might feel a little foggy, like in the head. It's because so much is being thrown off the body. If you think about how do we feel unified? How do we feel inner unity and unity with the outside world? If stress shuts things down and diminishes the positive thing, we have to de-stress. Like we have to de-stress this particular area so that we access the part of ourselves that can handle that situation and not have it amplify something negative and shut down something positive and go into this repetitive reactionary like state. And so what we're doing is you're throwing off a bunch of stress.
So this chakral coherence that you're talking about,
Hmm.
if we don't have that, if we react to a certain experience or event without it, with that chaos you talk about,
Hmm.
it sounds like that's almost the times where we take that situation and throw it somewhere in our body to process later. And
Body and mind. Yeah, body and mind. We almost like you know how there's like that saying where like when something's upsetting, somebody will go, I was beside myself. I mean, it's literally kind of a thing where, it's almost like like who you are just kind of, it's like it separates or it goes dormant, and we just become this like reactive thing that doesn't make choices and doesn't cognitively process and really isn't even a reflection of our personality or what we want. It just becomes these reactions, and we get lost in a moment for a little while. And then at some point we come back to ourselves and we're like, uh, think of like how meditation where we expand out. It's an expansion into the outside world, but not necessarily in a good way.
So when we have chakra coherence,
Mhm.
the phrase of being in the moment, we can be in
Right.
the moment
Exactly. Yes,
and
exactly.
respond, not react,
Right.
and enjoy what happens, not
Being present. Yeah. Being in the moment. I mean, you nailed it. Yeah. Because that's part of what even meditation is trying to do is like, we have this expansion where it's like it's a lot of it is the emotional body, like kind of expands outside the physical body. And we have this series of reactions, and then it comes back in. And when we have these bad experiences, we embody them afterwards, like in a not a good way, right? We like they come back in, your emotional body has this experience, and then and so part of like meditation where we're like, okay, om, and we expand out. It's a way of trying to compensate for that, because then you're experiencing your higher nature, you're experiencing the soul, and then you're bringing it in and you're like embodying that. So it's a way to like try to compensate for when it happens in the outside world. Like you could call the outside world like the lower realm. Like you went into the lower realm and then you embodied it. And then you're like, how do I shake it off? Well, om. Okay, I feel a little bit better. And then tomorrow, you expand out into that weird realm. And then, if it was a horrible experience and then it gets embodied and you're like, crap, here we go again. And so, you keep having these higher experiences, right? So that you can keep embodying them and it shifts our nervous system and how our mind works. The negative version of that is the same thing, but the outside world. And then we end up embodying something that's negative, or might even feel a little bit like harmful or causes like a disruption within us. But like soon as the emotional body goes out and starts having that experience, it's going to come back in, right? It's going to come back
yes.
uh, and hit us. And so a lot of times we can't do anything about it until it's back in, and then we start trying to clean up the crime scene, right? And so when we start to have more conscious awareness of it, we can diminish how we react when we go out there. And even when it comes back in, it's like, okay, we know that it came back in and it's not good. Let's shake it off. Let's get it out. And even going through and doing this process where we're bringing in an angel, when that goes out, it diminishes how much we'll expand out to have this negative experience. And when it comes in, it's that kind of that idea like not enough room for you in here. There's already an angel here. There's already a deity here. There's already my soul is here. So not enough room. Sorry, hit the road. You don't get to come back in and embody into this so that I have that experience.
So you talked about going out in the outer world and experiencing the lower realm, so to speak.
Mhm.
Isn't that part of our soul's purpose here to experience those realms? Or is that something
Yeah,
different?
yeah. It's
It
it's
grows.
how it's how it's how we connect to a greater degree to the soul. Because when we're just having those outer experiences, that's not necessarily the soul having that experience. It's more of our lower emotions and our instinctive responses. And so the idea is to embody the soul. Like when we do meditation on the soul, you're expanding soul energy within the body so that when those things happen, it does become more about the soul going out and having experiences, which makes that whole outer experience very different. And then even if it's negative, it makes what comes back very, very different. Like there's not quite the Velcro that there used to be, right? And so the more that we embody something positive, the more that we actually develop when we go out and have these things rather than um, like harming ourselves or the environment harming us. You know, it's like in the Kabbalistic practices, it's like those negative experiences that then come back and are embodied, or it's referred to as it's an issue of the heart chakra, and it's that which dirties the soul. Like it is something that, in a way, diminishes our ability to connect to the soul.
Mentioned that if we experience something negative and then it comes in normally to be embodied, but if we're full of angel energy, of deities, of our soul
Mhm,
itself,
mhm.
they're almost like filters and keeping that from coming in.
It's like a kind of displacement. Like it's like if you had a container of like a cup that had a bunch of tea in it, like only so much more could go in because it's already been filled up with something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate all that.
Yeah. Kind of interesting, huh?
Uh-huh. All from warm hands. Thank you.
Boy, you should have heard what I was going to say if it was warm feet.
And go ahead, Teresa.
Hey,
So I had a warm heart. What's that?
hey. Same thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's always perfect timing. I had something happen yesterday about fragmentation, and
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, I can't even plan this stuff. It's so amazing. Um, it just lines up, right? Would this, and I'm assuming the answer is yes. Let's just say that you have a situation and hmm, there's unclarity of what the soul wants to do. Like, so an inner conflict. Would this also help with that if it was around an
Yeah.
environment change?
Yeah. Because I would say that the like the soul or your true nature, your Buddha nature, your Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
it's the thing that's going to heal these situations. It's not, even when we go through and we do like, okay, I'm going to release trauma and I'm going to, try to regulate the mind and calm the emotions. And really what you're doing is you're still trying to set the stage for more soul energy to come in so that the soul is really the physician here. And
Hmm.
and so, whatever the situation is, the more that you can bring like greater contact or maintain like a stillness or a space to allow for more presence to be there, whatever the situation is,
Hmm.
will improve. You don't even need to figure it out. You just need it's almost like, how we talk about like you just present it to the you present a problem to intuition and intuition will resolve it. Really, it's when you're presenting the problem to intuition, what you're really doing is you're presenting it to the soul. But
Yeah.
intuition is like the mechanism that it all
Yep.
gets processed and presented. And it's like the intuition is like the agent, the handler for the soul.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how, like, like yesterday, I had an I don't even know how to describe it, an inner conflict. And when I finally said, okay, I'm not going to resist this anymore, even though it may not logically make sense to me, I'm going to lean into it. I just move and move
Right.
through it.
Right.
I just had a lot of relief. And it
Yeah.
honestly makes no logical sense because a decision came as a result of that, which still doesn't make logical sense, to my mind anyway. And I'm like, I'm kind of relieved and I'm
Yeah.
just going to go with that.
Yeah.
And would that be just the mind saying, hey, no, we don't want to do that. There's going to be something bad happening. And the soul's like, well, this is a part of your journey. Just be okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, there can always be a little bit of, an unconscious drive to avoid something, but
Hmm.
when the mechanism is the soul, yeah, it's not always things that we would choose to do.
Yeah.
You're like, it doesn't make sense. Like my rule of thumb is, for myself, is that if it makes me uncomfortable, it's probably of the soul. And if it makes it comfortable, it makes me go, I don't have to do it. It's usually some sort of unconscious thing that's trying to avoid something.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. So I had the uncomfort, but then I think, okay, I can't avoid this anymore because we just need to go through it. And then once I went through, it was almost like just relief, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I would. Yeah, I would agree. That sounds like processing something.
yeah. And well, I guess my soul has a plan that I still haven't figured out, but it involves lots of change and lots of movement. So,
Yeah, and sometimes like intuition is a lot of times processing way more information than the intellectual mind even has the capacity for. And so, you know, like I think 2 times today, Samantha was like, "Whoa, why did you do this or why did you do that?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know." And she was like, "Well, was it because of this or that?" And I was like, "Honestly, I don't know. I can't explain it.
yeah.
It's just what seemed to need to happen, but I don't have an explanation."
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. And thank you for just like the perfect timing on this because that started yesterday. And I'm like, as you were talking, um, and of course, then the mind's like, but do you really want to do that? And I'm like, well, it's done, and we're doing that. And the meditation, my heart just started, I could feel it expand
Mhm.
and just be calmer. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, there is like a kind of like peace and calmness that can be present. But like I'm saying this for myself, I'm not saying this for anybody else. But then there's also like some of the logical mind that fights it tooth and nail. Like
Absolutely.
whenever I catch myself fighting something tooth and nail, it's usually something that's coming from the soul. It's like some sort of guidance or some sort of like next step that happens. And
Yeah.
the citizen part of me like is like, no, we've got everything organized. Don't do this. Like we won't be in control. Like we don't know what's going to happen. Like da 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 da. Like I'll find myself like fighting it or resisting it. And usually, if I start to become aware of that I'm doing that, I'm like, this is what I usually do when something really amazing happens.
Oh, I
I
needed to hear. I
fight
needed
it.
to hear
I fight
that.
it deep in now.
Yeah, I can observe times when this has happened before, and what it just does is delays things and creates unnecessary
Yeah.
suffering. So I'm like, all right, fine, okay, got it. And so thank you for that, and thank you for. We must have some similar brains. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Anyway, thanks, Greg.
You're so.
And go ahead, Denise.
Hey, hey.
Thank you. I'm experiencing exactly what you're talking about, the fragmentation, and I didn't really have words. I can just feel it in
Yeah.
my body. Oh my
It,
gosh.
it's a hard one, because you're not really gonna pick up some book and like have somebody like even explain it because it's not really an intellectual process. And so intellect can be like a little bit aware of it, but when you start to have the experiences, you're like, I know that. Like I know the fragmentation and I know the coherence. And you kind of start to be able to like recognize them. And then as you start to be able to recognize them, then you can start to like align yourself with it, not just align yourself with the fragmentation.
The craziness.
Yeah.
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 Well, I not what I started to do is try to take what I know really will get me wound up and kind of choose something differently that'll calm me down. But I
Hmm.
was driving today and I remember a thought that's just come in and I always go down the same path. And I just said stop. I'm
Hmm.
choosing differently. But I was in the car away from the home. I
Right,
think,
right, right.
yeah, but it felt empowering. It felt really good because I don't know why I did it, but I feel like today I'm just right in alignment with what you're speaking of.
And you bring up a good point, because like if you think of the repetitive thing, it's like if you look at the repetitiveness of the mind and you look at it like how you'd be outside and you walk, you know, 20 feet from the house and you go, oh, it's raining outside. I shouldn't go outside. Maybe I should go back in the house. And you stop yourself and you go back in, and it's like, whoa, that could have been really nasty. I could have gotten wet and maybe sick or something like that. And you stopped yourself. And then the times where you walk outside and it's raining and it's cold and it's windy and maybe it's dark and you walk for 2 miles and then you go, oh God, why don't I feel good? Like I don't feel very good. I feel sick. I think I might have a fever and because we didn't have the awareness to notice it's raining outside. It's windy. It's cold. It's dark. I shouldn't be outside. And so when you can stop your mind, like you go, I'm going down that road again. Stop it. It doesn't necessarily change it, but it keeps you from having that whole negative experience of walking 2 miles in the rain and the cold and all of that. And then after a while, that that doesn't seem as natural to do. But when you do that every day, we just do it every day. We don't think twice about it. And so at first we start going, I'm going to stop it. I'm I might not even choose something different, but I'm just choosing not to do that. And so then that starts to be a step. And then you go, well, if I'm not going to do that, what am I going to do? And then you sit there and you go, well, I'll start exploring some different things. Maybe I put a coat on. Maybe I do this, or maybe I, and you start going down this rabbit hole. It starts to open up the possibility of a different outcome. But when we keep going down that same road and the same weather and the same rain and not really being aware of it, we always hope for a different outcome,
Mm.
but we do the same thing over and over again. And to be able to catch yourself and go, oh, I'm not going to do that. It does start to break you out of that pattern. Like it does, like, it makes you more aware of it. You caught it, you didn't engage it, and then pretty soon, even if nothing else happened, still something different happened. You know what I mean? Like just stopping it, something different now happened. And so the possibility of a different outcome now starts to become more possible.
Well said. Well said. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
So good for
I
you. I
I
mean, cherish that moment and like the more you realize it and the more you recognize it, the more it starts to happen.
well, I welcome that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
You're
Greg.
welcome.
And then we had some shares as well. This makes perfect sense. Moving from scattered pieces to a wholeness. Very spacey though.
Yeah.
Kind of a
Yeah.
quietly excited spaciousness.
Yeah.
Something is shifting.
Yeah.
Having feelings of frustration and that I should just go to bed, and really curious where staying with the practice is going to take
Yeah.
me. I'm smiling. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean that is also a good term to use. Like scattered is also what I'm calling fragmentation. Like when you just feel like scattered is a very good way of saying it. Yeah, good.
Are there any other oils or angels that can help with fragmented parts in addition to the angel Iachadiel, especially with this segment navel, spleen, mang mang, sex, and root?
Um, any angel will have an impact. Things that have to do with like unity and unifying. Um, uh, like what's some of the other terms that they use? Harmony. Yeah, like unifying, like also addressing like disconnection, like anything that any angel that kind of addresses that can be helpful. Any angel will be helpful, but especially something like this angel, the I
And go ahead, Dan.
hey, hey.
This kind of dovetails with something I just started coming across on my practice is, boy, I'm really mellow right now. But it's like I've noticed how things about myself, how much I want to like run away from what I'm feeling. I don't like my feeling. I just
Right.
change.
Yeah.
I'm just not sitting comfortably.
Yeah.
But it's like, everything's right there with you. It's just more like aligning to it, right? I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
going to have to go down the hall or go over here or go over there. It's like I'm not going to find it there, right? I'm going to find it kind of sitting around me. Does that make sense? Kind of?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, you bring up like a good point is like um a lot of times when I mean, you used really great words there, like the idea of like I don't like the way I feel. You know, when we're doing like the dysregulation and the vagal tone, you go, okay, I have a feeling and I'm gonna observe it, I'm gonna feel it, and the body is sending a signal and the mind is going to hear it and process it, and it calms that down. And for some things that does work. But when it is about the outside world, a lot of times what you're trying to address is some form of conflict, because if you look, conflict is the flip side of conflict is the creative process. And the creative process is also tied to our survival. It's like how we survive in the world. It is the play between yin and yang. I mean, if you look at it, even when yin and yang is in harmony, they're in opposition to each other. There is a kind of conflict. It's just that conflict gets harmonized. Something is like in flow with it. We have some issue, but we have also motivation to grow and evolve out of whatever that is. And then we are different, we're better, we're stronger, we're more aware, we're whatever it is. And a lot of times when the conflict is overwhelming or is tapping into an area where we're stressed. And it's not that like, oh, this stresses me out. I'm talking about where it's been stressed and we don't have like our abilities aren't firing there because it's shut down the positive and it's amplifying the negative, and we're stuck in a repetitive loop. And so when something hits there, it doesn't feel good, right? The conflict, whatever that is in the outside world, is hitting something, and you're like, ah, for F's sake, like, why do I have to keep feeling this way over and over again? Any
Right.
time where you're having that repetition, it is some sort of stress that is not allowing you to have movement, or you're not processing something. And it's not like, oh, I didn't choose it, or I'm not smart enough, or it's none of that. It's like it's hitting something where we have like shut down, or we never even got it going. Like, there's a lot of it that we just never got it going. Like it just, it's not that it got shut down. It was shut down and never saw the
Restart.
light of day.
Hmm.
And so, that's why sometimes, it's that idea of like when you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, right? And I can remember when I was younger, I was like, that doesn't make sense. A busy person doesn't have any time. Somebody who's maybe a couch potato has all kinds of time, but they can't access that piece of themselves.
Right.
And so, even though they have all the time in the world, they can't access that, so they can't get things done. The busy person might not have time, but they're able to access these different pieces, and they might not do it perfect, but they do something, right? And so whenever we have those times or those areas where like you nailed it, like I don't like the way this feels, or I feel stuck, or I feel trapped, or I feel like I'm in a cage, or I just want to be free of this. It's a kind of stress that has shut down some area of processing, and we're stuck in a loop. The positive qualities that would get us out have been shut down. The negative tendencies or feelings that we might have in that situation are amplified, and we're just kind of stuck. And so, like when you know that that feeling is there, um, even going through and doing the brain spine, doing that, but you could also do the lower centers. Um, like on the weekend, we're going to talk about like these different layers or these different kinds of stresses. I think I'm presenting like nine different kinds of stresses, and there's still other ones, but these nine are really primary forms of stresses.
Mm.
And so as we go through and we process that, it's a way to like liberate certain parts of yourself so that like that feeling of like, I don't like the way this feels, you have like a way to like access and to be able to start unwinding that stress so that because really it's just lack of movement. That's all that is. It's a lack of movement so that you start generating the movement in that area and then you kind of grow, innovate, evolve out of whatever that is.
Yeah. That's kind of like I'm really kind of focused on that these days, is trying just to get,
Mhm.
I mean, out of all the layers I've gone through this last, well, since I've really started uh picking up or committing to the practice, right? It's
Mhm.
like I'm just finding out these things about myself, and it's like
Right.
it's just I don't like everything I see kind of thing, you know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah,
I've been
I know
stuck in
exactly what
these
you mean.
I've been stuck in so many places so much
Yeah,
that it's like, come on,
yeah.
come on. Yeah. But
Yeah.
on a brighter note, I've had some really interesting dreams lately. So it was really an opening from a practice I did this weekend with the relics actually on Sunday. So
Oh, good.
that was very thank you for those practices as well,
Yeah,
because
no
that kind
problem.
of got me cleaned up a little bit. So got me kind of moving.
Good.
Yeah. So with just maybe I'm overthinking this, but with the mudra that you shared today, right? Will that also work with holding the relics as well, or is that
I,
something?
I would use in between using relics. Yeah. I would I mean there are certain practices with certain kinds of tools that you would use,
Mhm.
but
Rituals? Yeah.
the 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 practice like at first just do like either connect to an angel or
Mm.
like if you're doing Christ, connect to Christ or Buddha or whatever the being is, and then just sit and visualize, or you don't even have to visualize. If you just concentrate on that being, it will happen. And then later um you can do it a couple of different ways. You can visualize, like if it's an angel, you can visualize the angel within you, or if it's Christ, you visualize Christ in you, like you and Christ are in the same space. The other way to do it is to hold the image of the angel or the deity or whatever it might be with your awareness between the eyebrows. But I would say it's a simpler practice, but it's a more advanced practice. It's kind of good to go through the steps of connecting with the being and then visualizing the being in your body, and are you merging with the being? Because when you get to here, it's stronger, but it depends on how one pointed you can be. And like how we do the tools and things where you sit and or when we do body awareness, like you sit and concentrate on an area until you start to have an expanded state, like you're prepping for something later, and you're developing like that ability. And so when you start to do the ajna, you have to really be able to hold the image for a period of time
Mm.
and like have the expansion, but to be able to stay focused on it. And it's like focus and expansion and awareness are both happening simultaneously. And
Yeah.
so I would do the other things to develop that ability rather than just jumping to that ability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like I mean, just from the imagery or the sensations I'm getting, you're kind of holding space between the veil, if you will. You're kind of in and out of the veil at the same time. Does that make sense to this? context or
Coming out of the veil.
well, I mean,
Yeah,
get in
yeah.
this place or
Like I
get
just had to
in
think of how the language was.
yeah,
Yeah, I would say so.
yeah.
It's kind of like how we were when I was talking to Robert, like the expansion to the outer world is really like an extension of survival oriented activity. It's very lower nature, right? And so when you're holding the image of an angel or a deity or a teacher, you're stepping away from that and you're stepping into the essence or the divine or to the soul.
Mm,
And so that is almost like the other side of the veil, kind of. The only reason I say kind of is we're still stuck in that survival thing a bit. Even
okay,
though we're like starting to do that, it really takes a lot of work to get where you really start going into that. And so
okay.
even when you start to have very positive experiences, it's still you're still in the process of letting go of the outside world.
Right.
Yeah.
Or will be revealed, as they say.
Yeah, it's just, like if you watch like smoke coming off of a stick of incense, it kind of does a little thing and then expands out and everything. It's always in motion and eventually it becomes like this big whatever. But at first, it's just that little stream of smoke going up. Our practice is a lot like that smoke of the coming off the incense.
Huh.
Even when we have our first experience, you're like, this
Yeah,
is amazing. It's still just a little bit going up. It's
right.
not filled the room. You know what
It's
I mean?
not, yeah, right, right. Because we're still
Still
stuck.
feels amazing and still
Right,
needs to happen,
right,
but there's so much more possibility and potential.
right.
Yeah.
Still, or I'm still very much part of the stick kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Right. I'm still in the package. Yeah.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, you're someone.
Someone shared amazingness is happening in the intuitive background.
Yeah, nice. Okay. So how about we have a little bit more time still? So let's do another round of it, right? So you have your angel Iachadiel and begin inhaling, and your awareness is on the navel. Your awareness is on your navel. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Your awareness is on the spleen, left hand side, below the ribs. The low back, the backside of the navel. Your awareness is on the sex chakra. And then your awareness is on the bottom of the tailbone. And then just pause. Okay, raise your hands up. Roll down the middle finger and ring finger. Your thumb is out a little bit. Everything is just relaxed. Silently repeat I, och, die, el. 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 Just be aware of your body. Where do you feel something in your body? I, och, die, el. I, och, die, el. I, och, die, el. Gently relax your hands down. Your eyes are closed. You're just being still. Raise your hands up again. Roll down those middle two. Iachadiel. 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 Gently relax your hands down. You're inhaling the oil. Your awareness is on your navel. Your awareness is on the spleen, the left-hand side of the body, below the ribs. On the low back, the back side of the navel. The sex chakra. Your awareness is on the sixth chakra. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. The bottom of the tailbone. Your awareness is on the bottom of the tailbone. And then just pause and let go. Okay. So I hope your little journey with Iachadiel was good tonight. A little bit different than things we've done in the past, but I think every week's going to be that way. So, I mean, we're going to move over to the Tuesday night prayer petition blessing. So join us if you can. We'll take this feeling that we have right now and go a little deeper with it in that process. And if not, I think several of you we see on the weekend. And if not, we have our deeper dive tomorrow night in our star practice. And next Tuesday is Ithuriel. So we'll be going deep on another angel next week. So take care.